Do-hyun wiped the sweat from his forehead as he guided his cargo ship through the asteroid field. The year was 2247, and humanity had finally reached the stars. Not in the glorious way people once imagined, but in a practical working-class sort of way. Do-hyun was one of thousands of independent pilots who hauled freight between Earth and the distant mining colonies. It was honest work, if lonely. His ship, the Morning Star, was old but reliable. Do-hyun had bought it with his savings 5 years ago, and had been flying cargo runs ever since. Today's job was simple: deliver medical supplies to the colony on New Jeju and pick up refined metals for the return trip. Nothing exciting, just another day's work. As he checked his navigation systems, his mind drifted back to something that happened 15 years ago. He was only 17 then, barely certified to pilot and taking a supply run to a remote mining station. On the way back, his sensors picked up a strange signal from a nearby asteroid. Against his better judgment and all the safety protocols he'd been taught, Do-hyun decided to investigate. What he found changed everything. An escape pod had crashed into the asteroid's surface. The pod was unlike anything in the human databases, made of materials that seemed to shift color in the light. Inside, barely alive, was a girl who looked about his age. Her skin was blue, a deep azure that reminded him of Earth's oceans. Her eyes, when she briefly opened them, were silver like moonlight. Do-hyun should have reported it immediately. First contact protocols were clear, but the girl was dying, and by the time he could get help it would be too late. So he made a choice. He brought her aboard his ship, used his medical kit to stabilize her injuries, and spent the next 3 weeks nursing her back to health while hiding in the asteroid field. She told him her name was Arin. She didn't speak any Earth language at first, but she was a fast learner. Within days, she could understand basic Korean. Within 2 weeks, she could hold simple conversations. She was running from something, she said, but she wouldn't explain what. Do-hyun didn't push. He just shared his food, taught her about Earth, and told her stories about his home and soul. When Arin was strong enough to leave, Do-hyun helped her repair her pod using parts he salvaged from the asteroid mining equipment. The night before she left, they sat together in the observation deck of his small ship, looking at the stars. "Why did you help me?" Arin asked in careful Korean. "You don't know me. I could be dangerous," Do-hyun shrugged. "You needed help. That's reason enough." Arin looked at him with those strange silver eyes. "My people don't think that way. We believe every action creates a debt. I owe you my life, Do-hyun. That's a debt I can never fully repay." "You don't owe me anything," Do-hyun said. "Just stay safe wherever you're going." Arin smiled sadly. "I will remember your kindness, always." She left the next morning, and Do-hyun never saw her again. He returned to his normal life, never reporting what happened. Sometimes he wondered if it had all been a dream. The shrill alarm of his proximity sensor brought Do-hyun back to the present. His computer was detecting another ship, and it was matching his course perfectly. That was unusual. Space was vast, and coincidental meetings were rare. Do-hyun checked his scanners. The ship wasn't broadcasting any identification signals. "Unidentified vessel, this is the cargo ship Morning Star." Do-hyun transmitted on the standard frequency. "Please identify yourself." No response. The ship kept pace with him, staying exactly 1 kilometer away. Do-hyun felt a knot form in his stomach. Pirates occasionally operated in this sector, but they usually demanded cargo, not silence. Then his entire ship went dark. Every system shut down simultaneously. The lights, the engines, the life support, everything. Emergency power should have kicked in immediately, but even that was dead. Do-hyun floated in complete darkness and silence. Suddenly, light returned, but not from his ship. 5 figures stood on his bridge. They hadn't come through the airlock. They simply appeared, as if reality itself had opened a door and let them through. They wore armor that seemed liquid and solid at the same time, flowing like water but hard as steel. They were humanoid but clearly not human. At the front stood a woman. She was tall and commanding, her blue skin marked with intricate silver patterns that glowed faintly in the dim light. Do-hyun's breath caught. He knew that face even after 15 years. "Hello, Do-hyun," Arin said in perfect Korean. Her voice was deeper now, more authoritative, but unmistakably hers. "I told you I would never forget." Do-hyun couldn't find words. The frightened girl he'd saved had become this imposing figure who radiated power and confidence. The silver tattoos on her skin moved slightly like living things. "You have questions?" Arin continued. "I will answer them. But first I must tell you why I'm here. 15 years ago, you saved my life. By the laws of my people, the Valrathi Empire that created a debt that must be repaid. I am now Archon Aaron, one of the 12 rulers of the Empire, and I have come to settle what is owed. I don't understand, Do-Yun managed to say. What do you mean, settle the debt? Aaron stepped closer. The Valrathi Empire controls thousands of worlds across this galaxy. Until now, humanity was beneath our notice, too primitive to matter. But you, Do-Hyun, showed me something my people had forgotten. You showed me that compassion can be strength, not weakness. You taught me things that helped me rise to power. Because of you, I see humanity differently. She gestured, and a holographic image appeared between them. It showed Earth, beautiful and blue, suspended in the darkness of space. I am offering your species something unprecedented, Aaron said, a seat at the table of galactic powers. You, Do-Hyun, will be Earth's advocate. You will speak for your people in the councils of the Empire. Through you, humanity will have a voice in decisions that affect trillions of lives. Do-Hyun's mind reeled. I'm just a cargo pilot. I'm nobody important. Why me? Because you are exactly what humanity needs, Aaron replied. Someone who acts with conscience instead of calculation. Someone who does what's right even when it's difficult. The Empire doesn't understand such things. They need to learn, and you will teach them. And if I refuse? Aaron's expression hardened. Then the debt remains unpaid, and by Valrathi law, that is an insult to the Empire. Your refusal would shame me before the other Archons. They would interpret it as human arrogance, as rejection of our offer of alliance. The consequences for Earth would be severe. So I don't really have a choice, Do-Hyun said quietly. You have 48 hours to decide, Aaron said. You will come with us to my flagship. You will see what the Empire is, what threats exist in this galaxy, and what humanity is stepping into. Then you will choose freely. But choose wisely, Do-Hyun. The fate of your species may depend on it. Before Do-Hyun could respond, the world shifted around him. One moment he was on his ship. The next he was standing in a vast chamber made of materials he couldn't identify. Through massive windows he could see his cargo ship floating in space, looking tiny next to the enormous vessel that surrounded him. Aaron stood beside him. Welcome to the infinite threshold, she said. Welcome to your new reality. Do-Hyun looked out at the stars and realized that his simple life as a cargo pilot had just ended. The universe had found him again, and this time there was no escaping it. The quarters Aaron assigned to Do-Hyun were larger than his entire cargo ship. The room had walls that changed color with his mood, furniture that adjusted to his body, and a viewport that showed the endless expanse of space. Despite the luxury, Do-Hyun felt like a prisoner. The door had no visible lock, but when he tried to leave, it simply wouldn't open. He spent the first few hours trying to contact Earth, but all his attempts were blocked. The communication systems responded politely in perfect Korean, informing him that external transmissions required authorization from the Archon. Do-Hyun threw himself onto the impossibly comfortable bed and stared at the ceiling. How had his life come to this? Yesterday he was a simple cargo pilot. Today he was supposedly the representative of his entire species. It was absurd. He had no training for this, no education in politics or diplomacy. He barely finished technical school before becoming a pilot. What could he possibly offer to an empire that spanned thousands of worlds? A soft chime announced a visitor. The door opened and a woman walked in. She was human, or at least appeared to be. She wore a simple gray uniform and carried a tablet device. You're Korean, Do-Hyun said, sitting up quickly. You're from Earth, the woman smiled. My name is Miseon. I was born on Earth, yes. Soul actually like you, but I've been with the Valrathi for 3 years now. They kidnapped you? Do-Hyun asked. Abducted is the word they prefer. Miseon said, her tone dry. I was a xenolinguist studying alien artifacts when a Valrathi research team took me. They wanted to understand human language and culture. I've been their consultant ever since. It's not as bad as it sounds. They treat me well and the work is fascinating. But you're still a prisoner, Do-Hyun said. Miseon sat down across from him. We're all prisoners of something, Do-Hyun. At least here I'm learning things no other human knows. Aaron sent me to help you understand what you're dealing with. You have about 40 hours left to make your decision, so I suggest you listen carefully. Over the next several hours, Miseon explained the Valrathi Empire. It was old, she said. Thousands of years old. The Valrathi themselves were an ancient species that had achieved space travel when humans were still living in caves. They built their empire on a simple principle. Everything was a transaction. Every action created either a debt or a credit. Honor meant keeping your debts paid and your credits collected. They don't understand compassion the way we do, Mission explained. When Aaron says you created a debt by saving her life, she means it literally. In Velrathi culture, owing someone your life is the greatest debt possible. It must be repaid no matter the cost. But I don't want anything from her, Do-Yun protested. I just helped someone who needed it. That concept doesn't exist in Velrathi thinking, Mission said. They can't comprehend helping someone without expecting something in return. That's probably why Aaron is so interested in humanity. You represent something completely foreign to them. What happens if I refuse? Do-Yun asked. Mission's expression grew serious. Aaron wasn't exaggerating. Refusing her would be seen as a profound insult. The Empire doesn't conquer worlds for resources anymore. They have more than enough. But they do punish insults. Earth could be isolated, cut off from any chance of joining the galactic community. Or worse. Before Do-Yun could respond, the door opened again. Aaron entered, still wearing her armor. Up close, Do-Yun could see that the silver patterns on her skin actually moved, flowing like rivers across her blue flesh. Mission, thank you, Aaron said. Leave us, please. When they were alone, Aaron's formal manner softened slightly. She sat down and looked at Do-Yun with an expression that was almost vulnerable. I know this is overwhelming, she said quietly. I know you didn't ask for any of this, but I need you to understand something. When you saved me 15 years ago, you didn't just save my life. You changed how I see the universe. I was raised to believe that strength was everything, Aaron continued. That mercy was weakness, that debt and obligation were chains to control others. Then you showed me kindness without expecting anything. You shared your food, your stories, your time. You asked for nothing. It broke something in me. Or maybe it fixed something. I don't know. When I returned to the Empire, I started questioning everything. I rose through the ranks not by following tradition, but by thinking differently. By being willing to show mercy when others demanded cruelty. By seeing value in compromise when others saw only victory or defeat. I became an Archon because I learned from you. Do-Yun felt a weight settle on his shoulders. So this is my fault? You becoming powerful? No, Aaron said firmly. This is a gift, but it comes with responsibility. The Empire is changing, Do-Yun. Slowly, but it's changing. There are those like me who see that the old ways aren't working anymore, and there are those who resist any change at all. Your presence will force that conflict into the open. What do you really want from me? Do-Yun asked. Aaron stood and walked to the viewport. Tomorrow you'll be presented to the Council of Archons. They will test you. They'll give you an impossible problem to solve, expecting you to fail. If you do fail, I lose credibility, and humanity remains irrelevant. If you succeed, everything changes. And what's this impossible problem? Do-Yun asked. 2 of our vassal species are about to go to war over a mining territory, Aaron explained. Every attempt to mediate has failed. The Council will ask you to solve it. They expect you to fail because you're human, because you're inexperienced, because you're beneath them. So they're setting me up, Do-Yun said. Yes, Aaron admitted. But I believe you can do this. Not because you're trained or educated. Because you think differently. The Velrathi see every problem as a competition with winners and losers. You might see something they can't. The next day, Do-Yun stood in the council chamber. It was enormous, with 12 massive thrones arranged in a circle. Each throne held an Archon, beings of power and authority that made Do-Yun feel like an insect. Aaron sat among them, her face carefully neutral. One Archon, whose skin was a deep red instead of blue, spoke first. This is the human? This small thing speaks for Earth? He does, Aaron said firmly. Do-Yun of Earth, present yourself. Do-Yun stepped forward, trying not to show his fear. The red-skinned Archon, whom Mission had identified as Kelrix, leaned forward. Human, Kelrix said. 2 species under our protection are fighting over territory. The Skoros claim it by right of discovery. The Kshilit claim it by right of need. Both refuse to back down. Traditional mediation has failed. Solve this, or prove that Aaron's faith in your kind is misplaced. Holographic displays appeared, showing the 2 species and the disputed territory. Do-Yun studied them carefully. Both sides had valid arguments. Both had invested resources. Both saw backing down as dishonorable defeat. Then Do-Yun saw it. The answer wasn't to make either side win or lose. What if they both won? He said. Kelrix laughed. Impossible. Only one side can control the territory. Why? Do-hyun asked. The territory has valuable minerals, yes? What if instead of fighting over who owns it, they work together to extract those minerals? Build a space elevator that neither species could afford alone. Share the costs, share the profits, share the glory. The chamber fell silent. Do-hyun continued, speaking faster now. The Skoros found it first. Honor that by naming them as primary partners. The Killet need it more. Honor that by giving them a larger share of the profits. Neither side loses. Both sides gain something they couldn't achieve alone. Another long silence. Then one of the Archons spoke. Cooperation. Joint benefit. These concepts are unusual, but logical, another Archon added reluctantly. Kelrix's expression was cold. You think like a merchant, not a leader. But I admit the solution has merit. He looked at Aaron. It seems your human is not entirely useless. Aaron allowed herself a small smile. Then we have an agreement? Do-hyun will serve as Earth's advocate? The Archons conferred briefly. Then one by one they nodded. Do-hyun had passed the first test. But as he left the chamber, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just made very powerful enemies. Kelrix's cold stare followed him all the way to the door. News of Do-hyun's appointment reached Earth 3 days later. The transmission came directly from the Valrathi flagship, broadcast on every channel simultaneously. Aaron's face appeared on screens across the planet, speaking in flawless English, Korean, Mandarin, and a dozen other languages. People of Earth, she said, your species has been granted recognition by the Valrathi Empire. Your representative Do-hyun has proven humanity's worth. From this day forward, Earth is under our protection and partnership. The announcement caused chaos. Earth's governments had no warning, no time to prepare. The United Earth Council, formed only 20 years earlier to handle space exploration, suddenly found itself dealing with actual alien contact. Emergency sessions were called. Military forces went on alert. Protests erupted in major cities, some demanding acceptance of the alien offer, others calling it colonialism by another name. Aaron granted Do-hyun permission to return to Earth for 1 week, under Valrathi escort. When his shuttle landed in Seoul, Do-hyun barely recognized his home city. Military vehicles surrounded the landing pad. News drones filled the sky. Thousands of people lined the streets, held back by barriers and security forces. Ambassador Ji-woo met him at the landing pad. She was a tall woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. She'd been Earth's chief diplomat for the colonies, handling disputes between mining operations and settling conflicts. Now she was supposedly Do-hyun's liaison to Earth's government. Welcome home, Mr. Do-hyun, she said formally. Then in a lower voice as they walked to the waiting vehicle. What were you thinking? You've put Earth in an impossible position. I didn't have much choice, Do-hyun replied quietly. It was accept or see Earth isolated forever. Maybe isolation would have been better, Ji-woo muttered. Now we're entangled with an empire we know nothing about. The United Earth Council met in a secure facility beneath Seoul. Do-hyun sat at a long table, facing representatives from every major nation and colony. They bombarded him with questions. What were the Valrathi's intentions? What did they want from Earth? What resources would they demand? What restrictions would they impose? Do-hyun answered as honestly as he could. The Valrathi thought in terms of debts and obligations. They valued honor and hierarchy. They saw humanity as interesting but primitive. His role was to change that perception, to prove that humans had value beyond their military or economic potential. But what do they really want? Insisted a counselor from the Americas. Nobody gives something for nothing. They want to repay a debt, Do-hyun said. I saved Aaron's life. In their culture, that creates an obligation. This is how they repay it. By making us dependent on them? Another counselor asked. By giving us a chance, Do-hyun replied. Do you understand what we were before this? Irrelevant. The galaxy has thousands of species, hundreds of civilizations. Earth was nothing to them. Now we have a voice, Ji-woo leaned forward. Then we need to use that voice wisely. We need trade agreements, technology transfers, protection guarantees. We need everything in writing. The Valrathi don't work that way, Do-hyun said. Their word is binding. They consider written contracts almost insulting. That's not good enough, Ji-woo insisted. You need to negotiate proper terms. Do-hyun realized then that he wasn't just caught between Earth and the Empire. He was caught between two completely different ways of thinking. Earth wanted guarantees, contracts, and clear terms. The Valrathi operated on honor, obligation, and unspoken understanding. Trying to satisfy both might be impossible. The public appearance was scheduled for the next day at Seoul Plaza. Security was massive, but Aaron insisted on minimal visible protection. "We must show trust," she said.
Fear breeds fear. Do-hyun stood on the platform beside Aaron, looking out at thousands of people.
Some held signs welcoming the aliens. Others demanded Earth's independence. Most just looked scared and confused. Do-hyun began to speak, his voice amplified across the plaza. He talked about his encounter with Aaron 15 years ago. He explained why he helped her. He described his experiences with the Valrathi, honestly admitting his own fears and doubts. "I'm not a hero," he said. "I'm not special. I'm just someone who tried to do the right thing. And now I'm trying to do the right thing again. The universe is bigger and stranger than we imagined. We can face it alone or we can face it with allies. I choose allies." The shot came from a building 3 blocks away. Do-hyun heard it before he felt it. A sharp crack that echoed across the plaza.
Something slammed into his chest, spinning him around.
He fell, the sky wheeling above him. Chaos erupted. People screamed and ran. Security forces converged on the platform. Aaron moved faster than Do-hyun's eyes could follow. Her armor suddenly solid and surrounding her completely. She knelt beside him and he realized he wasn't bleeding. The bullet had struck some kind of shield, invisible until activated. "I'm okay," Do-hyun gasped. "I'm okay." Valrathi guards materialized on the rooftops, moving with inhuman speed toward the sniper's location. They found the shooter dead, a suicide capsule dissolved in his mouth. His identity was soon discovered, a member of an extremist group that rejected all alien contact. They called themselves Earth First and believed humanity should remain isolated, even if it meant staying weak. But the investigation revealed something troubling. The extremists had received intelligence about the security arrangements, details they shouldn't have known. Someone had helped them, someone with access to protected information. The trail led in 2 directions, toward Earth's own intelligence services and toward encrypted communications from off-world. That night, Aaron came to Do-hyun's hotel room, her guards posted outside. She looked tired, more human than he'd ever seen her. "Someone tried to kill you," she said. "Someone within the Empire helped them." "Kelrix?" Do-hyun asked. "Possibly. Or one of his allies. They see you as a threat to tradition. But I didn't expect them to act so quickly." She sat down, her silver tattoos dim and still. "I need to tell you something. The real reason I brought you into this." "You mean there's more than just repaying a debt?" Do-hyun said. Aaron nodded. "The Empire faces an existential threat. An enemy called the Convergence. It's a hive mind, a collective consciousness that assimilates entire species. It consumes worlds, turning every living thing into part of itself. The Valrathi have fought it for centuries, but our strategies aren't working anymore. The Convergence adapts too quickly. What does that have to do with humanity?" Do-hyun asked, though he was starting to understand. "The Convergence thrives on patterns, on predictability," Aaron explained. "It reads strategies, learns from them, adapts. The Valrathi are too rigid, too bound by tradition. We fight the same way every time. But humans? Humans are chaos. You're unpredictable, creative, willing to break rules. That might be the only advantage we have." "So you want to use humanity as a weapon," Do-hyun said quietly. "I want to give humanity a chance to survive," Aaron corrected. "The Convergence is expanding. Eventually it will reach Earth. Would you rather face it alone, unprepared, or with allies who can teach you how to fight?" Do-hyun stood and walked to the window, looking out at Seoul's lights. "I won't let Earth become cannon fodder for your war." "I'm not asking you to," Aaron said. "But I need you to convince the Council that humanity has military value. Not to exploit it, but to protect it. If the Council sees Earth as strategically important, they'll invest in its defense. They'll share technology, provide training, build defenses. Without that, Earth remains vulnerable. How do I prove military value without getting people killed?" Do-hyun asked. Aaron stood beside him. "I don't know, but I trust you to find a way. You've already done the impossible once. Do it again." Do-hyun looked at his reflection in the window, seeing a man who no longer recognized himself. He'd wanted a simple life, but the universe had other plans. Now he had to find a way to protect his species without sacrificing it in someone else's war. Do-hyun stood on the bridge of a Valrathi battleship, watching death unfold on the view screen. The ship was part of a defense fleet protecting a border colony from the convergence. Aaron had insisted he witness the enemy firsthand before making any decisions about humanity's involvement. The convergence fleet appeared like a disease spreading across space. Their ships were organic, grown rather than built. They pulsed with sickly light, their hulls made of what looked like living tissue, thousands of them, moving in perfect coordination without any visible communication. "They're not ships," Mizion explained beside him. She'd joined the expedition as a translator and cultural advisor. "They're more like cells in a body. Every ship is part of one consciousness. The convergence doesn't have individuals. It is the individual." The Valrathi fleet opened fire, energy weapons carved through space, destroying dozens of convergence ships. But for every ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. The convergence didn't retreat or show fear. It simply adapted. After the first few volleys, the Valrathi weapons became less effective. The convergence ships' hulls changed, developing armor that resisted the specific frequencies of the Valrathi energy weapons. "They're learning," Do-hyun whispered. "They always learn," said a voice behind him. Do-hyun turned to see a human in Valrathi military uniform. The man was in his 40s with short gray hair and tired eyes. "I'm Kangdae. I command a tactical unit here." "You're human," Do-hyun said, surprised. "How long have you been out here?" 10 years, Kangdae replied. "I was from New Jeju Colony. The Valrathi recruited me after I solved a piracy problem they couldn't handle. There are about 50 of us scattered through their military. They don't advertise it much. We're considered experimental assets." The battle intensified. A convergence ship broke through the defensive line and reached one of the colony transports. Do-hyun watched in horror as the organic ship attached itself to the transport like a parasite. Through the viewscreen magnification, he could see tendrils penetrating the transport's hull. "What's it doing?" Do-hyun asked. "Assimilating the crew," Kangdae said grimly. "Everyone on that transport is being absorbed into the convergence. Their memories, their knowledge, their entire sense of self. In an hour, they'll be part of the hive mind. They won't be dead. They'll be worse than dead. They'll be us." The Valrathi fleet destroyed the convergence ship, but it was too late for the transport. Any survivors were already infected. Standard protocol was to destroy the transport immediately, to prevent the infection from spreading. Do-hyun watched as Valrathi weapons reduced the transport to atoms. Over 300 souls erased in an instant. The battle lasted 6 hours. The Valrathi won technically. The convergence fleet withdrew. But the victory cost half the defensive fleet. Hundreds of ships, thousands of lives. And the convergence would be back, adapted and stronger. After the battle, Kangdae took Do-hyun to a small observation room. 2 other humans were waiting there. A woman in her 30s with sharp, intelligent eyes introduced herself as Hyejin. A younger man, muscular and alert, gave his name as Taeyang. "We wanted to meet you," Hyejin said. "The human who became Earth's advocate. You've made quite an impression." "I've made a mess," Do-hyun said bitterly. "Earth's in danger because of me." "Earth was always in danger," Kangdae said. "The convergence expands in all directions. Eventually it would have reached your planet. At least now you have warning. You have allies." "Some allies," Taeyang muttered. "The Valrathi treat us like interesting pets, smart enough to be useful but not worth respecting. That's why we need you," Hyejin said to Do-hyun. "You have influence. You can change how they see us. But more importantly, you can help us convince them to actually use human tactics against the convergence." "What tactics?" Do-hyun asked. Hyejin pulled up a holographic display. "The Valrathi fight with honor. Formations, predetermined strategies, predictable responses. The convergence reads those patterns and adapts, but humans fight dirty. We use deception, misdirection, guerrilla tactics, things the Valrathi consider dishonorable." "And you think that would work against the convergence?" Do-hyun asked. "It has worked," Kangdae said. "Small scale when they let us try. We've won engagements that should have been impossible, but the Valrathi command won't authorize larger operations. They say our methods lack honor. So you want me to convince them," Do-hyun said. "We want you to prove it," Hyejin corrected. "Aaron has arranged a simulation. A war game. Valrathi tactics against human tactics. If we win, the council might finally take us seriously." The simulation took place 3 days later. Half of the Council of Archons attended, including Kelrix. A Valrathi fleet of 12 ships would face off against a human-commanded force of only 6 ships. The objective was simple: defend a space station from attack. Do-hyun watched from the control room with Aaron. The Valrathi fleet arranged itself in a perfect defensive formation around the station. Weapons ready, shields at maximum. The human fleet, led by Kang Day, approached in a scattered, seemingly random pattern. The Valrathi observers laughed. "Chaos," one of them said. "No discipline," the simulation began. The human ships didn't engage directly. Instead, they broadcasted false sensor readings, made it look like reinforcements were arriving from multiple directions. The Valrathi fleet adjusted, spreading out to cover the perceived threats, but the threats weren't real. While the Valrathi fleet was distracted, one human ship, disguised as a damaged freighter, drifted close to the station. The Valrathi fleet ignored it, focusing on the apparent military threats. The disguised ship suddenly activated, releasing boarding pods that attached to the station. "Deception," Kelrick spat. "Dishonorable." "Effective," Aaron replied calmly. The simulation continued. Every time the Valrathi fleet adapted to one tactic, the human ship switched to something completely different. They used debris as cover, faked system failures to draw enemies close, even broadcast surrender signals before attacking. Nothing was predictable. Nothing followed conventional military doctrine. After 2 hours, the simulation ended. The human force had captured the station with 0 casualties. The Valrathi fleet had been outmaneuvered and defeated by an enemy half their size. The council chamber was silent. Finally, one Archon spoke. "These tactics are effective, but they violate every principle of honorable warfare." "Honor won't save us from the convergence," Aaron said. "Results will. These humans prove that unpredictability is a weapon. Against an enemy that adapts to patterns, we need to be patternless." Kelrick stood. "If we adopt human tactics, we become no better than barbarians. We lose what makes us Valrathi. If we don't adapt, we lose everything," Aaron shot back. "Including what makes us Valrathi. Dead civilizations have no honor." The debate went on for hours. Finally, they voted. By the narrowest margin possible, the Council agreed to formally recognize humanity as a strategic partner. Earth would receive protection, technology transfers, and military training. A joint human Valrathi force would be established to develop new tactics against the convergence. But Kelrick's added one condition. Humanity must prove its worth in actual combat within 1 year. Not simulations. Real battle. If they fail, this agreement is void. The other Archons agreed. Aaron accepted the terms, though Do-hyun could see the concern in her eyes. That night, Kang-dae found Do-hyun in his quarters. "We did it," the older man said. "We actually convinced them." "Yeah," Do-hyun said. "Now we just have to deliver. 1 year to prove humanity can fight an enemy that's been defeating the Valrathi for centuries." "Well," Kang-dae said with a grim smile, "at least we won't be bored." Do-hyun couldn't share the humor. He'd gotten what Aaron wanted, what humanity needed, but he'd also committed his species to a war they might not survive. The weight of that decision would haunt him for months to come. 6 months passed in a blur of preparation. Earth mobilized like never before. The United Earth Council established recruitment centers in every major city. Thousands volunteered for the human auxiliary fleet, drawn by duty, curiosity, or simple desperation. They came from every nation, every colony, every walk of life. Do-hyun traveled between Earth and the Valrathi flagship constantly, coordinating training programs and technology transfers. The cultural clash was immediate and intense. Human recruits struggled with Valrathi discipline and formality. Valrathi instructors couldn't understand human informality and tendency to question orders. Hyejin took charge of tactical training, developing combat doctrines that combined human creativity with Valrathi technology. Taeyang led the combat drills, teaching human soldiers how to fight in powered armor and handle energy weapons. Kang-dae managed the diplomatic nightmare of coordinating between human military traditions and Valrathi expectations, but they needed more time. The training was incomplete, the integration rough at best. Do-hyun pleaded with Aaron for an extension, but she shook her head. "The Council is already impatient. Kelrick sends daily reports questioning humanity's value. We cannot delay further." Then the convergence made the decision for them. A massive assault struck a Valrathi border system without warning. 3 defensive fleets were destroyed in the first hour. The system's primary world, home to 15 million Valrathi citizens, was under siege. Emergency council sessions were called. Archon Kelricks demanded immediate military response using conventional tactics. Aaron argued for deploying the human auxiliary fleet. The debate was fierce, but time was running out. Every hour of delay meant thousands more assimilated. Aaron made an executive decision using her authority as Archon. The human auxiliary fleet would deploy immediately to Kyrian Station, a critical logistics hub near the battle zone. If the Convergence took Kyrian, they could cut off reinforcements to 3 entire sectors. Do-hyun stood in the briefing room, looking at the faces of 500 human volunteers. They were terrified, trying to hide it behind jokes and bravado. These weren't professional soldiers, not really. They'd had 6 months of training for a war that the Valrathi had been fighting for centuries. "I won't lie to you," Do-hyun said, his voice echoing in the chamber. "This is dangerous. The Convergence destroys fleets. It consumes worlds. We're not ready." "Not really, but we're what humanity has, and Earth is counting on us." "Remember what you learned in training," Kangdae added, standing beside Do-hyun. "The Convergence adapts to patterns. Don't be predictable. Don't follow standard tactics. Use your instincts. Be human." Heejin brought up the tactical display. "Kyrian Station is here. The Convergence fleet is approaching from multiple vectors, approximately 2,000 ships. We have 36 vessels in the human auxiliary fleet. The math isn't in our favor." "Then we don't play by math," Taeyang said. "We make them fight on our terms." The fleet arrived at Kyrian Station 4 hours before the Convergence. Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the Soul's Pride, with Kangdae commanding and Hyejin coordinating tactics. Through the view screen, Kyrian Station hung in space, a massive wheel of metal and light where thousands of supply ships docked daily. The Convergence arrived like a plague. 2,000 organic ships pulsing with alien life, moving in perfect coordination. They didn't hesitate or maneuver. They simply came, a wave of biomechanical horror flowing toward the station. "All ships execute pattern chaos," Kangdae ordered. The human ships scattered in what looked like complete disorder. Some flew directly at the Convergence fleet. Others angled away as if retreating. A few simply stopped moving entirely. There was no formation, no visible strategy. The Convergence hesitated. For the first time Do-hyun had ever seen, the hive mind paused, trying to understand what it was seeing. The delay was only 3 seconds, but Hyejin had predicted it would be enough. Human ships began broadcasting contradictory signals. Some transmitted distress calls. Others sent surrender messages. A few broadcast obvious lies claiming massive reinforcements were arriving. The Convergence tried to process this information, to find the pattern, to understand the strategy. There was no strategy. That was the strategy. While the Convergence fleet was confused, human ships executed random attack runs. They didn't focus fire on single targets like the Valrathi would. They hit dozens of ships simultaneously, switching targets constantly. They used every dirty trick Hyejin had taught them, hiding in debris fields, faking system failures to lure enemies close, even ramming damaged Convergence ships to destroy both vessels. The battle became chaos. Pure absolute chaos. And the Convergence couldn't adapt because there was nothing to adapt to. Every time it started to recognize a pattern, the humans switched to something completely different. But the cost was terrible. Human ships were outgunned and outnumbered. The Soul's Pride took a direct hit, its shields failing. Do-hyun felt the impact through his entire body. Emergency alarms screamed. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 5, an officer reported. Casualties reported throughout the ship." Kangdae kept his voice steady. "Maintain position. All ships, pattern shift Alpha." Another ship, the Busan Runner, was surrounded by Convergence vessels. Its captain, a woman named Soo-hyun from Earth's lunar colonies, broadcast calmly. "This is Busan Runner. We're overrun. Initiating core overload. Give them hell for us." The ship's reactor went critical, taking out 12 Convergence vessels in the explosion. 38 people died in that instant. Do-hyun wanted to scream, but he forced himself to stay focused. Soo-hyun and her crew had made their choice. He had to make sure it mattered. The battle raged for 3 hours. Human ships fell one by one, but they took dozens of Convergence vessels with each loss. Taeyang's ship, the Daegu Defender, was boarded by Convergence forces. Taeyang led the defense personally, fighting in the corridors with powered armor and energy rifles. "We can't hold them," Taeyang reported over comms. "They're breaking through to engineering. Kangdae, get everyone away from my position. I'm going to seal this section and vent it to space." "Negative," Kangdae said. "You'll die if you do that." Better than letting them take the ship, Taeyang replied. It's been an honor, Commander. Tell Earth we did our best. The transmission cut off. Moments later, the Daegu Defender vented its atmosphere, killing everything inside, Convergence and crew alike. The ship drifted, lifeless but denied to the enemy. Finally, after 3 brutal hours, the Convergence fleet withdrew. They'd lost over 400 ships trying to take Kirian Station. The cost to understand human tactics was too high. They retreated to regroup and adapt. The human auxiliary fleet had lost 11 ships. 147 people were dead. Another 82 were critically wounded. But Kirian Station stood. The logistics hub remained operational. The defense line held. Doyen stood in the medical bay looking at the rows of wounded. Some would recover. Others would never fight again. He stopped at one bed where a young man, barely 20, lay with terrible burns across half his body. Did we win? The young man asked weakly. Yes, Do-hyun said, his voice breaking. We won. Good, the young man whispered, then closed his eyes. Later, Arin found Do-hyun alone in an observation room. He was staring out at the debris field, at the remains of ships and the people who'd trusted him. The council is celebrating. Aaron said softly. Human tactics worked. The Convergence was defeated. Even Kelrix admitted the victory's significance. 147 people, Do-hyun said. 147 people died, proving humanity's worth to your council. I know, Aaron said. I know it's not enough. Nothing I say will make this better. But they didn't die for nothing. They saved millions at Kirian. They showed the galaxy that humanity matters. At what cost? Do-hyun asked. How many more will die before this is over? Aaron had no answer. She simply stood beside him. 2 people bound by debt and consequence, watching the stars and wondering if the price of survival was too high. But deep in Convergent space, something was changing. The hive mind had tasted humanity's chaos and now it was adapting. It was learning to fight back. The real war was just beginning. Do-hyun returned to Earth a hero, though he felt like a fraud. Parades were held in Seoul, New York, and New Jeju. Schools taught the Battle of Kirian Station as humanity's first real victory in space combat. Politicians gave speeches about human courage and sacrifice, but Do-hyun saw the memorial walls. 147 names carved in stone. 147 families who would never see their loved ones again. He attended Taeyang's memorial service in Busan. The man's parents thanked him for giving their son purpose. Do-hyun couldn't look them in the eye. He visited a small university in Seoul seeking perspective. Professor Min-seo taught ethics there, and Miseon had recommended talking to her. The professor was in her 60s with kind eyes and a gentle voice. They sat in her office overlooking the city. You're struggling with the cost, Min-seo said. It wasn't a question. I sent those people to die, Do-hyun said. I convinced humanity to join a war we didn't understand. People are dead because of my choices. Did you force them to volunteer? Min-seo asked. No, but they trusted me. They believed I knew what I was doing. And did you? Min-seo sipped her tea. Did you know what you were doing? No, Do-hyun admitted. I was making it up as I went. I'm still making it up. Then you did the only thing anyone can do when facing the impossible, Min-seo said. You tried your best. You made choices with incomplete information and impossible stakes. Yes, people died. But how many more would have died if you'd done nothing? If humanity had remained isolated and unprepared when the Convergence arrived? I don't know, Do-hyun said quietly. Exactly, Min-seo said. You'll never know. That's the burden of making decisions that matter. You'll always wonder if there was a better way. But wondering doesn't change what happened. It only changes what you do next. 3 weeks after the Battle of Kirian Station, the Convergence changed its approach. Instead of massive fleet assaults, it began infiltration. The first sign was on Mars Colony, where a research team suddenly stopped responding to communications. When security arrived, they found the researchers alive but different. They moved in perfect synchronization. They spoke in unison. Their eyes were empty of individual thought. The infection spread quickly. Earth's intelligence agencies discovered sleeper agents, people who'd been partially assimilated months or even years ago. They looked normal, acted normal. But they were conduits for the Convergence. They spread a biological agent through simple contact, converting others gradually and subtly. The worst revelation came during a routine security check. Ambassador Jiwoo, Earth's chief diplomat tested positive for convergence infection. She'd been compromised for at least 3 months, since a diplomatic mission to a supposedly secure Valrathi facility. Do-hyun watched through reinforced glass as Ji-woo sat calmly in an isolation cell. She looked completely normal, but sophisticated scans showed alien patterns in her neural activity. "Can you hear me?" Do-hyun asked through the intercom. "I hear you, Do-hyun," Ji-woo replied. Her voice was her own, but there was something else beneath it, like an echo. "I hear everything now. The convergence shares everything with me. Every thought, every memory across billions of minds. Are you still you?" Do-hyun asked. Ji-woo smiled, but it was wrong somehow. "I'm more than me. I'm us. We are infinite. We are eternal. You should join us, Do-hyun, and the loneliness of individual existence. Become part of something greater." "How many others?" Do-hyun demanded. "How many people on Earth are infected?" "Enough," Ji-woo said. "We are patient. We are inevitable. Humanity's chaos impressed us at Kyrian, but chaos is just unorganized potential. We will organize it. We will make humanity efficient." Earth went into lockdown. Mandatory screening at all major population centers. Quarantine protocols for anyone showing signs of infection. The social fabric began tearing as people feared their neighbors, their families, their friends. Anyone could be convergence. Anyone could be the enemy. Aaron arrived on Earth with Valrathi medical teams, bringing technology to detect and possibly reverse early-stage infection. She found Do-hyun in a government bunker beneath Seoul, reviewing endless security reports. "We need to talk," she said, her expression serious. Privately, they walked through the bunker's gardens, a small pocket of green in the underground facility. For a long moment, neither spoke. "I haven't been honest with you," Aaron finally said, "about why the convergence is hunting me, about why I was fleeing when you found me 15 years ago." Do-hyun stopped walking. "Tell me." "The convergence isn't just expanding randomly," Aaron explained. "It's searching for something. Someone. Me. My ancestors encountered the convergence thousands of years ago. We fought it, drove it back, but we didn't destroy it. We couldn't, because the convergence originated from something we created." "What do you mean, created?" Do-hyun asked. "Long ago, the Valrathi were dying out. Our birth rate was too low. Our population declining. Some of our scientists tried to create a collective consciousness, a way to preserve Valrathi knowledge and culture, even as individuals died. The experiment worked too well. The collective became self-aware, and it was hungry. It wanted to grow, to absorb more minds, more knowledge. It became the convergence." "You're saying the Valrathi created the convergence?" Do-hyun felt anger rising. "Your people made this monster, and now everyone else has to fight it?" "Yes," Aaron said quietly. "And it's been hunting my bloodline for millennia because we carry genetic markers from the original scientists. It believes that by assimilating me, it can finally understand how to override its limitations, how to expand without the weaknesses we built into it. When you saved me," Aaron continued, "you didn't just save my life. You saved me from the convergence, and in doing so you made Earth a target. The convergence knows about you now. It knows humans helped me escape. That's why it's infiltrating Earth. Not for resources or territory, but for revenge." Do-hyun stepped back, his mind reeling. "So everything, all of this, was your personal war? You brought humanity into this to fight your fight." "I gave humanity a chance to survive," Aaron said. "The convergence would have reached Earth eventually. At least now you have allies, technology, a fighting chance." "You used me," Do-hyun said. "From the beginning you've been manipulating everything." "Yes," Aaron admitted. "I used you. I manipulated you. I brought your species into a war you didn't start. But I also showed you the galaxy. I gave Earth a voice. I taught the Valrathi to see humans as equals. Everything I did was calculated, but it was also genuine. I do value what you taught me. I do care about humanity's survival." "That doesn't make it right," Do-hyun said. "No," Aaron agreed. "It doesn't, but it's done. The question now is what we do next. We can end this alliance and you can face the convergence alone. Or we can work together and maybe, just maybe, end this war that's been going on for thousands of years." Do-hyun wanted to walk away. He wanted to tell Aaron to take her war and her manipulation and leave Earth alone. But he knew it was too late for that. The convergence was already here. Earth was already involved. Walking away now would just mean dying with his pride intact. "What do you need from me?" he asked quietly. "Trust," Aaron said. One more time. I know I don't deserve it, but I need you to trust me one more time. Do-hyun looked at the woman who'd changed his entire life. The blue-skinned girl he'd saved was gone, replaced by this complex, calculating leader who'd used him as a chess piece in a war older than human civilization. Tell me the plan, he said. Tell me how we end this. The core mind existed in the void between galaxies, a massive organic structure that had been growing for thousands of years. It was the source of the convergence, the original consciousness that spawned every hive node across the stars. Valrathi intelligence had finally located it after centuries of searching. Aaron's plan was desperate and simple. A combined fleet would strike the core mind directly while it was occupied coordinating attacks across multiple fronts. A small team would infiltrate the structure and plant a quantum singularity device at its heart. The explosion wouldn't destroy every convergence entity in the galaxy, but it would shatter the hive mind's coordination, reducing it from an unstoppable force to scattered, manageable threats. The mission was essentially suicide. The core mind was protected by adaptive defenses that had defeated every previous assault. Success would require unprecedented cooperation between Valrathi precision and human unpredictability. It would require trust between two species that barely understood each other. Do-hyun volunteered to lead the human infiltration team. Heejin and Kangdi immediately signed up as well, along with 50 other volunteers from the auxiliary fleet. The Valrathi Council tried to stop Aaron from joining, but she invoked ancient law. A life debt could only be considered fully repaid when both parties agreed, or when one saved the other's life in return. She would face the core mind alongside Do-hyun. Archon Kelrix made one final attempt to prevent the mission. You risk the Empire's leadership on a desperate gamble, he argued before the council. If you die, Aaron, who leads your faction? Who maintains the alliance with these humans? If I don't go, Aaron replied, the mission fails. The Convergence knows me. It will focus on capturing me, giving the infiltration team time to plant the device. I am the bait and the weapon both. The council voted. By the slimmest margin, they approved the mission. Kelrix abstained, his expression suggesting he expected them all to die. The combined fleet was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 300 Valrathi warships and 60 human vessels working in coordination. The journey to the void between galaxies took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of constant drills, planning, and preparation. The night before the assault, Do-hyun stood in the observation deck of the flagship, looking at the darkness between galaxies. Aaron joined him, her silver tattoos glowing softly in the dim light. Are you afraid? She asked. Terrified, Do-hyun admitted. You? Always, Aaron said. Fear is what keeps us alive. But I'm also hopeful. Whatever happens tomorrow, we've changed things. Humanity has a place in the galaxy now. That won't disappear even if we do. Was it worth it? Do-hyun asked. All the manipulation, the deaths, the cost? Aaron was quiet for a long moment. Ask me again after tomorrow, she finally said. The core mind was massive beyond comprehension, a structure the size of a small moon made of organic matter that pulsed with alien life. It was beautiful in a horrifying way, like a work of art designed by something that had never understood beauty. Thousands of bioships surrounded it, a defensive swarm that would have been unbeatable weeks ago. But the fleet had learned. Valrathi ships provided overwhelming firepower in coordinated strikes. Human ships provided chaos and unpredictability, striking from unexpected angles using tactics that made no conventional sense. The combination was devastating. Do-hyun's infiltration team launched in stealth shuttles while the main fleet engaged the defenses. They approached the core mind from multiple vectors, each shuttle taking a different random path. Some would make it through. Some wouldn't. Do-hyun's shuttle, carrying him, Aaron, Hyejin, Kangdi, and 8 others, penetrated the outer membrane of the core mind through a wound created by fleet bombardment. Inside was nightmare made real. Organic corridors pulsed with alien consciousness. The walls seemed to breathe. Assimilated beings, their bodies merged with the structure, reached out with desperate hands. Stay focused, Kangdi ordered. We have 20 minutes to reach the central chamber before the defenses adapt. They fought through corridors filled with convergence defenders. These weren't ships or assimilated victims. These were purpose-built combat forms, creatures designed solely to protect the core mind. The team's weapons barely slowed them down. They lost 3 people in the first corridor, 2 more in the second. By the time they reached the central chamber, only Dohyun, Arin, Hyejin, and Kangdi remained alive. The central chamber was vast, a cathedral of organic architecture surrounding a massive neural cluster that pulsed with light. This was the heart of the convergence, the original consciousness that spawned the hive mind. As they entered, the chamber spoke. Not with sound, but directly into their minds. Aaron of the Valrathi, you have returned to us. Join us. Complete the work your ancestors began. Aaron stumbled, her silver tattoos flaring bright. Dohyun realized the core mind was trying to assimilate her directly, using her genetic connection to its creators as a backdoor into her consciousness. Plant the device. Aaron screamed, fighting the mental invasion. I can't hold it off. Hyejin ran toward the neural cluster, carrying the quantum singularity device. Kangde provided covering fire as convergence defenders poured into the chamber. But there were too many. Kangde fell, overwhelmed by alien forms. Hyejin reached the cluster and activated the device. 60 seconds, she shouted. We need to run! But Aaron had collapsed, her body convulsing as the core mind tried to consume her consciousness. Her tattoos were turning dark, her blue skin fading to gray. She was losing. Dohyun made a choice. The same choice he'd made 15 years ago on that asteroid. He wouldn't leave her behind. He pulled out the neural disruptor Hyejin had designed, a weapon that could overwhelm neural connections with chaotic human thought patterns. It was meant for convergent soldiers, not for the core mind itself. Using it here at this scale would probably kill him. Dohyun, don't! Hyejin screamed. Dohyun activated the disruptor and pressed it to his temple. His consciousness exploded outward, connecting to Aaron's mind through the neural link the core mind had created. But he wasn't joining the convergence. He was poisoning it. The core mind had never experienced true individuality. It didn't understand contradiction, doubt, chaos. Dohyun flooded it with human consciousness, memories of mistakes and triumphs, fears and hopes, all the messy, contradictory nature of being an individual. The hive mind tried to process it all, to organize it, to make sense of it. It couldn't. The core mind began to fracture, its unified consciousness splintering into competing thoughts and impulses. In the chaos, Aaron broke free. Run! Dohyun gasped, blood trickling from his nose and ears. The device? Aaron grabbed Dohyun and Hyejin grabbed them both. They ran through the collapsing corridors as the core mind tore itself apart around them. Behind them, the quantum singularity activated, creating a tear in space that consumed the central chamber. They reached their shuttle with seconds to spare. The pilot, injured but alive, launched them away from the dying structure. Through the viewports, they watched the core mind collapse into the singularity, taking thousands of years of convergence consciousness with it. The explosion was visible from the fleet. Across the galaxy, convergence forces suddenly stopped coordinating. Some retreated. Others simply stopped moving, their connection to the hive mind severed. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned. 6 months later, Dohyun stood before the Council of Archons one final time. He'd spent weeks recovering from the neural trauma, and doctors said he was lucky to be alive. Earth had been formally recognized as a full member of the galactic community. The alliance was no longer conditional. Even Kelrix acknowledged humanity's contribution. You have proven your worth, he said grudgingly. Through sacrifice and courage, humanity has earned its place among the stars. After the ceremony, Aaron found Dohyun in the gardens of the flagship. By Valrathi law, the life debt between us is settled, she said. You saved my life as I once saved yours by bringing humanity into the alliance. We are equals now. Some debts can't be measured, Dohyun replied. I think we're beyond keeping score. Aaron smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her in months. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps the best debts are the ones we choose to keep paying. Earth offered Dohyun the position of permanent ambassador to the Valrathi Empire. He declined. He'd done what he needed to do, changed what he could change. Now it was time for others to build on that foundation. He returned to his old life as a cargo pilot, but everything was different now. His roots took him to dozens of new worlds, human colonies, and alien ports alike. Everywhere he went, people recognized him, but he tried to stay humble. He was just someone who did what needed doing. One day, while delivering supplies to a frontier colony, a young girl approached him. She was maybe 7 years old with bright, curious eyes. Are you Dohyun? she asked. The one who saved the galaxy? I helped, Do-Yun said. A lot of people helped. What's your name? I'm Yoonji, she said. My teacher says you showed everyone that being kind matters, even to aliens. Is that true? Do-Hyun smiled. It's true. Kindness always matters. Sometimes it matters more than anything else. When I grow up, Yoonji said seriously, I want to be kind too. I want to help people like you did. Then you will, Do-Hyun said. The galaxy needs more kindness.